Ethan Hayes never imagined that the first job he'd land after getting his professional translator certification would be translating 99 French love letters from his own wife, Clare Jensen, to her old flame. On the screen preview, the cursive French coiled like a vine, every stroke tangled with a blistering passion. As a tear hit the keyboard, the words swirled in his mind, a bed of hot coals searing his heart. Leo, I want to melt you into the snow on a mountaintop to make you the moon in my sky. The first snow in Paris fell on the Champs-Élysées, shaped like my kiss for you. 3 years. I'll be waiting. My love. Today was supposed to be his and Claire's 3rd wedding anniversary. And now, he knew the man she'd been pining for was Leo Vance, the same man who had stolen his prestigious scholarship to study abroad all those years ago. Before Ethan could recover from the suffocating weight in his chest, a FaceTime call from his best friend, Chris, lit up his screen. Ethan, dude, is your CEO wife finally getting it? Chris's voice was triumphant, as if he'd orchestrated a victory. I just saw her at JFK. Looked like she even bought you pastries from that bakery you love. He flipped the camera. Whoa, and is that a bouquet? The Ice Queen is actually trying to be romantic. This is something else. He flipped the camera back. It's your 3rd anniversary, man. Congratulations. Looks like your patience is finally paying off. Ethan managed a bitter smile. Chris's excitement faltered. Hey, what's wrong? Before Ethan could answer, Chris let out a sharp gasp. Holy crap, Ethan, you have to see this. He fumbled with his phone, turning the camera around again. Through the screen, Ethan saw Clare pressed tightly against Leo Vance's chest. This was the woman who would straighten a collar if it was off by a millimeter. Yet here she was, letting her couture dress wrinkle under the grip of another man's hands. The look of adoration on Leo's face was more blinding than the bouquet of roses in her arms. It was a full 5 minutes before they finally, reluctantly, pulled apart. Chris, never one to hold back, stormed over to them. He tapped Clare on the shoulder. Well, look who it is. Clare Jensen, holding on to a thief that tight. You ever wonder how that makes Ethan feel? Clare turned, her eyes sweeping over him, devoid of any panic. She moved to shield Leo behind her, her voice sharp and protective. My business with Ethan is none of your concern. Leo will be the new chief designer for Jensen Corp. And what happened back then was never proven. Don't go throwing around baseless accusations. Baseless? Chris laughed, shoving his phone in her face. Then maybe the CEO should keep some professional distance from her new hire. Otherwise, people might start to think. He glanced at Leo with a sneer. That Mr. Vance here is a homewrecker. Claire's face darkened. A few passers-by were starting to stare, murmuring to each other. She pulled a flushed Leo closer, her parting words a cold, clear threat. You'll regret today's slander, Chris. Chris started to follow them, but Ethan's voice, low and strained, stopped him. Chris, just let go. Seeing the redness in Ethan's eyes, Chris was frantic. Let go. Ethan, the woman is toxic. If she hadn't proposed to you back then, that scholarship would have been yours. Didn't she promise she'd deal with Leo? Is this what dealing with him looks like? A sharp pain shot through Ethan's chest, but he forced his voice to remain calm. It's okay, man. I'll handle it. Don't worry. Chris sighed, a mix of anger and sympathy. Even back in college, I knew there was something going on between them. She's been cold to you this whole marriage, and now that Leo's back, you've got to watch her back. Ethan murmured a quiet, I will, and after a few more reassurances, Chris reluctantly hung up. He sat motionless on the couch, the digital love letters on the screen in front of him burning his eyes. They made his carefully curated 3-year marriage feel like a complete and utter joke. He'd gotten the translator certification because Clare had mentioned a new French designer was joining the firm. He'd spent 6 months burying himself in French textbooks, thinking he could finally be useful to her, a part of her world. He never thought the designer would be Leo. He sank back into the sofa cushions, any hope for their anniversary completely extinguished. The year they graduated, Leo had stolen his design portfolio and, with it, the scholarship to Paris. Ethan had been ready to fight it, to expose him, but then Clare, the woman he'd had a crush on for years, had suddenly proposed. She'd even produced a finished product from one of his designs, promising she would get him justice and punish Leo. Blinded by the joy of finally having her, he hadn't pursued it. But he saw now what her punishment was, sending Leo to a top design school in Paris and writing him 99 scorching love letters as part of their 3-year promise. Who, exactly, was being punished here? In that moment, Ethan finally allowed himself to accept the truth. Clare Jensen did not love him. Her sudden proposal had been nothing more than a strategic move to keep him quiet, to stop him from exposing Leo. His eyes were dry and sore when the doorbell rang. He numbly got up to answer it. It was a delivery crew from a high-end furniture store. Mr. Hayes? Ms. Jensen instructed us to replace the old furniture. Ethan stepped aside, watching as they hauled away the beige sofa he and Claire had picked out together when they first got married. In its place, they brought in a bold emerald green sectional, Leo's favorite color. They even wheeled in a custom-made green Steinway grand piano. He suddenly remembered a line from one of the letters. When you come back, I'll put a Steinway in the living room and play Liszt's Liebstrom for you myself. A sour ache filled his chest. Claire had replaced every piece of furniture he'd chosen. Even the paintings on the walls were gone. He laughed humorlessly. Perhaps the thing she wanted to replace most was him. When the delivery men were finished, Ethan handed them the black card Claire had given him. The crew chief swiped it, then looked up with a confused expression. Excuse me, Mr. Hayes. Ms. Jensen's domestic residency status was canceled. She established a new identity and was issued a new primary card. This secondary card has been deactivated. Did she not mention it to you? The world tilted. Ethan had to grip the doorframe to stay upright. Why would Claire cancel her residency? A gut feeling told him it had everything to do with Leo Vance. An unprecedented wave of exhaustion washed over him. He stared at the alien landscape of his own home and suddenly felt tired. So tired of fighting for a marriage that had no love in it. He gave the groceries he'd bought for their anniversary dinner to the delivery men and, with a trembling hand, sent a text to his old mentor. I'm in. I'll take that permanent overseas translator position with the Sterling Group. Then, he made another call. Sarah, I need you to draw up divorce papers. And while you're at it, I need you to look into someone for me. He could hear the clinking of glasses in the background. After a brief rustle, Sarah's voice came through, hushed. Divorce? Are you serious? After everything you've done for her? And she's still holding that time we were seen coming out of the hotel against you. Ethan's lips twisted into a bitter smile. With Leo occupying her heart, Claire never cared about the baseless rumors surrounding him and Sarah. Just drop the papers, he said, and remember our agreement. What really happened that day? We take it to our graves. And one more thing. I need you to run a check on Clare Jensen. He looked back into the living room, the green sofa a glaring affront. He closed his eyes. Find out if she really did cancel her residency. A heavy sigh came from the other end. Okay, Ethan, I'm on it. He hung up. A new message popped up from his mentor. Excellent. You start in 2 weeks. After replying, Ethan went upstairs to pack. For 3 years, Claire had provided him with all the trappings of CEO's husband, a life so comfortable he'd almost believed they could make it last forever. Now he saw it for what it was, compensation for her deceit, a charity of stability. The pain he'd managed to suppress began to creep back into his chest. He tossed expensive watches and designer suits into a suitcase, planning to sell them all online. When he carried the suitcase downstairs, the scene in the living room stopped him in his tracks. Leo Vance was sitting on the garish green sofa, one of his feet propped up, wearing a pair of Ethan's new silk slippers. In his hand was a slice of cake. Claire was kneeling in front of him, gently applying ointment to his twisted ankle. Her focus was absolute, her voice soft. Don't move. Does it hurt? The simple question made Ethan's eyes burn. He quickly looked down, fighting the wave of bitterness. There was a time when they'd had moments like this. Back when she wasn't the glamorous heiress of the Jensen family, but just an outcast, the illegitimate daughter everyone whispered about. She had a permanent keep-out sign on her face, but when a group of bullies from the orphanage had him cornered, she had charged in, her eyes blazing, and fought them off before grabbing his hand and pulling him away from that cold, unforgiving place. They had depended on each other for 3 years, living in the old apartment her mother had left her. She would share one of her Bluetooth earbuds with him so they could listen to heartbreaking love songs together. When a fire broke out in the science lab, she had pulled him out of the flames without a second thought for the burns blistering her own back. He could still remember the kiss she'd pressed to his lips, her cheeks flushed, her promise searing hot. Ethan, let's stay like this forever. But then Leo Vance showed up, and everything changed. It wasn't enough that Leo had stolen the adoption opportunity that a wealthy family had offered Ethan. He set his sights on Claire, too. When thugs harassed her, he would miraculously appear like a hero, shouting, "Stop, I'm calling the police." When a teacher, disgusted by her background, disqualified her from a speech competition, he was the one who stood up and said, "That's not fair." One picture-perfect rescue after another, he had slowly carved out a place for himself in her world. Then, shortly after Claire was officially acknowledged by the Jensen family, Leo produced the photos of Ethan and Sarah leaving a hotel together. The angle was deceptive, making them look intimate. Claire had just laughed, a cold, empty sound. She tossed the ring she'd been planning to give Ethan into the trash and walked straight over to Leo's side. Later, when Ethan saw Leo laughing and joking with the same thugs who had harassed Claire, he tried to warn her. She just scoffed. "Ethan, Leo isn't like you. Don't project your jealousy onto him." With Claire's blessing, Leo grew bolder. He used the same tactics from the orphanage, but now the stakes were higher. He stole the few friends Ethan managed to make. He even stole the small, silver locket Ethan had worn since he was a child, his only link to the family he'd never known. Claire had been dismissive. "It's just a locket. If Leo wants it, let him have it." Her voice had turned cold, sharp, considerate. "Payment for the 3 years I took care of you." Those words were like a dull pair of shears, methodically cutting away the last threads of dignity he had left. Maybe Claire had long forgotten their teenage affection, but she had used their marriage to trap him for 5 long years. When she proposed, he knew it was a trap, but he had pathetically walked right into it anyway. "Oh, Ethan, you're down." Leo's affected voice pulled him from his memories. Claire glanced up, her tone icy. "Having your friend stalk me is something I expect never to see again." Ethan's heart seized. This time, it's just a little lesson. Next time, it won't be so simple. Before Ethan could process her words, his phone began buzzing uncontrollably with notifications. He opened his Instagram feed and felt the blood rush to his head. There, posted for the world to see, were private, shirtless photos of Chris. The caption read, "Looks like Chris isn't just wild by nature. He's got the body to match. Any takers?" Winking face below it, the comments were vile. "Thanks for the late night treat, Chris." Ethan was shaking with rage. "Claire, Chris was on a business trip. Running into you at the airport was a coincidence. This has nothing to do with him. Take those pictures down now." Claire stood and sat beside Leo, her brow furrowed. "If he wasn't stalking me, how did he know what happened at the airport?" Leo scooped a piece of cake and held it to Claire's lips, his voice a sickening whine. "Oh, Claire, look at him. Ethan's about to cry. He doesn't have many friends, and Chris is the only one who sticks around. Maybe." He turned to Ethan. "If he apologizes, I'll forgive Chris." Ethan's hands clenched into fists. Chris did nothing wrong. Leo immediately clutched his chest and leaned dramatically against Claire's shoulder, his eyes red-rimmed. "Claire, is Ethan still upset about what happened 3 years ago? I've already been punished for that." Claire let him lean on her, her gaze on Ethan filled with impatience. "Leo spent 3 years away from home. That's punishment enough." The absurdity of her statement made Ethan laugh. He fought to control his emotions, his voice flat. "Just tell me what you want. What will it take for you to delete the photos?" Leo jumped in. "That depends on how sincere you are, Ethan. Claire's letting me stay in the master bedroom," he said, gesturing to the new green bedding with a provocative smirk. "But I'm a bit of a neat freak. It would be great if you could. Tidy up for me." Ethan looked at Claire. Her expression was one of complete indulgence. He gave a self-mocking smile and went to get the cleaning supplies. Soon, the faint, broken melody of a piano drifted up from downstairs. It was Liszt's Liebstrom. Ethan closed his eyes, letting the notes slice into him like 1,000 tiny knives. Even if it bled him dry, he would carve Clare Jensen out of his heart. When he finished and came back downstairs, he found Leo lying with his head in Claire's lap. She saw him, but kept her voice low, as if not to wake the man resting on her. "Leo's tired. We can talk after he wakes up." Ethan took a deep breath, trying to ignore the faint red mark on her neck. "Delete the photos, or I'm calling the police right now." Claire's expression hardened, her gaze pinning him to the spot. "You can try." He stared at her cold, confident eyes, a chill sweeping through him. "Chris only said those things because of me. If you want to punish someone, punish me." Claire's eyelashes fluttered as she noticed his red-rimmed eyes. Her tone softened slightly. "Leo's reputation is tied to the company's interests. We've done nothing wrong. He just had heart surgery. He can't handle stress. Just behave yourself. As for the photos, they'll be gone by morning." Her voice turned sharp again. "But your friends are too prejudiced against him. I don't want to hear another word against Leo." Just then, Leo, feigning sleep in her lap, murmured, "Honey, I'm so tired." Claire's brow twitched. A sarcastic smile touched Ethan's lips. "Claire, let's get a divorce." Before she could react, Leo shot up from her lap, a triumphant grin on his face. He high-fived her. "See, Claire, I told you if you brought me home, he'd throw a fit. I win the bet. You have to take me to the alumni gala." Claire returned the high five. "Deal." She had completely forgotten that today was their 3rd anniversary. As Ethan turned to leave, Claire's cold voice hit him from behind. "Ethan Hayes, as long as I don't sign, you will always be my husband. Don't even think about tricking me with some bogus paperwork. I won't fall for it." Just be the good little husband and stop making a scene. Any more of this, and you'll be crossing a line. A sharp needle of pain pierced his heart. He didn't bother arguing that he wasn't making a scene. He just walked in the guest room. His phone vibrated. It was a text from Chris. "Ethan, I've got a great body. I'm not afraid of anyone seeing it. Just don't let them push you around." His friend's tough words made the tears he'd been holding back finally spill over, blurring the screen. It was okay. He was leaving her soon. After that, they could never hurt the people he cared about again. As he drifted off to sleep, he felt a dip in the mattress. A warm hand, adorned with a ring, gently wrapped around him, a thumb stroking his furrowed brow. It had to be a dream. The cold, distant Clare hadn't shared a bed with him in a very long time. Sure enough, when he woke up the next morning, he was alone. A champagne-colored handkerchief, the same shade as a gown Clare often wore, lay on the pillow beside him. He couldn't remember why it was there and tossed it aside. Worried about last night, he quickly checked his phone. Chris's photos were gone. After getting ready, he went downstairs to find Clare carrying a plate of fried eggs from the kitchen. Leo saw him and waved enthusiastically. "Ethan, come look. Clare made the most beautiful egg. She's a total klutz, though. It took her 10 tries to get the shape I wanted." He turned to Ethan. "Does she make breakfast for you like this?" Clare, who had never cooked a day in her life, discreetly hid her red, scalded hand behind her back and laughed lightly. "We usually have staff for that. You're the only one who's so high maintenance." Ethan's not nearly as picky. How long had it been since he'd seen this gentle version of Clare? Ethan looked down, digging his nails into his palm to suppress the wave of bitterness. He glanced at the perfect, heart-shaped egg on Leo's plate, then at the burnt, misshapen failure in front of him, and his appetite vanished. He turned to leave, but Leo called out, "Ethan, you should come to the alumni gala with us." Ethan instinctively frowned. Before he could refuse, a cunning glint appeared in Leo's eyes. "Sarah will be there, too." Ethan hesitated for a fraction of a second. That was perfect. He could get what he needed from her. In that brief moment of hesitation, Claire's expression turned terrifyingly dark, her voice dropping to a freezing temperature. "I don't want to see you refuse Leo again." She turned back to Leo, handing him a glass of warm milk, her voice softening once more. "Leo, didn't you want to visit our old campus? I'll go with you." Of course. It was always about Leo. Ethan cursed himself for his foolishness, for thinking, for even a second, that she might have been jealous about Sarah. Just then his phone rang. He pulled it out and saw Sarah's name on the screen. Clare, who had just stood up to go to the kitchen, saw it too and, for some reason, sat back down. The legs of her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Ethan ignored her, heading upstairs as he answered the call. "Hello, Sarah, you didn't finish." A porcelain breakfast mug flew past his face, shattering against the floor at his feet with a loud crash. A shard of ceramic sliced across the top of his foot, and a line of red slowly seeped out from the edge of his slipper. He looked back in disbelief. Claire was still frozen in a throwing motion. She saw the blood on his foot and flinched, then quickly looked away, her words like daggers. "So annoying. You're disturbing Leo's breakfast." Ethan slowly turned back, dragging his bleeding foot up the stairs, one step at a time, enduring a pain that felt like it was tearing him apart from the inside out. He heard their voices behind him. "Claire, I think he's bleeding." "Forget it. A little cut like that won't kill him." His chest tightened with a suffocating ache. He took a deep breath and put the phone back to his ear. Sarah's frantic voice came through. "Ethan, are you okay? You don't need the divorce papers anymore. I found something." Claire canceled her U.S. residency over a year ago. She used a French identity to marry Leo Vance over there. Because her residency was canceled, I was able to file for divorce on your behalf. You can pick up the certificate in 7 days. But she recently submitted an application to restore her residency. If you don't file, your marriage to her will be automatically reinstated. The phone slipped from his hand, crashing onto the floor. A spiderweb of cracks spread across the screen, a perfect mirror of his shattered heart. Ethan slid down the wall, sinking to the floor. The world went silent around him. He stared blankly ahead as a tidal wave of pain, a suffocating net, wrapped around him, making every breath a sharp, stabbing agony. She had canceled her residency to legally marry Leo. How ridiculous. Just yesterday, he'd been in the kitchen, clumsily preparing their 3rd anniversary dinner. No wonder she had replaced all the furniture he'd chosen, even the painting he had done for her himself. It turned out that in this house, Ethan Hayes, was the intruder. "Clare Jensen, how could you betray me so completely?" After a long while, Ethan slowly pushed himself to his feet. The blood on his foot had dried to a dark, ugly stain, much like the 8 years they had shared, ending in nothing but desolation. The phone screen was still lit. He opened Instagram. Claire, who rarely posted anything, had just uploaded a 9-photo grid. In the pictures, she and Leo were at a food truck near their old college campus. The same woman who would frown if the lighting in a restaurant was too bright was now looking at Leo with pure adoration as she peeled a plate of spicy crawfish for him. Her designer suit was jarringly out of place against the greasy plastic tablecloth, but the smile on the man beside her made her seem right at home in the gritty city night. Ethan's knuckles turned white. He remembered suggesting, so many times, that they go back to that food truck, telling her how he missed their insanely spicy noodles. Claire had always looked up from her mountain of paperwork, her face etched with exhaustion. What's there to remember? Given your position now, is that really an appropriate place for you to be? Now he understood. It wasn't that she didn't want to go. It was that the person she wanted to share those memories with was never him. Ethan lowered his head and, looking at the photos, gently tapped the like button. That evening, long before Claire and Leo returned, the story was already trending on Twitter. Jensen Corp's CEO in cheating scandal, spotted kissing new flame before entering hotel. Mystery man's identity revealed, the man with the YY tattoo. The photos were blurry, the man's face obscured, but the YY tattoo on his collarbone was unmistakable. Anyone could see it was Leo Vance. A needle prick of pain touched Ethan's heart before he calmly closed the browser. The front door burst open. Before Ethan could react, Claire grabbed his wrist, her grip so tight he thought his bones would break. The pain made him cry out. "Claire, are you insane? Let go of me." Her face was a cold mask as she dragged him out of the house and shoved him into the back of a black SUV. Inside, she held him in a crushing grip, as if trying to merge him into her very being. Ethan squeezed his eyes shut, unwilling to look at this stranger. Suddenly, she grabbed his chin, forcing him to look at her. Her eyes were dark pools of fury. "Ethan Hayes, have you forgotten who you are? When something like this happens, would it kill you to ask me about it? Do you care so little?" Ethan met her gaze defiantly, his lips pressed into a thin line. He scoffed internally. Asked her what? If she went to a hotel with Leo? If the tattoo was a symbol of their love? The truth was right there in front of him. What was there to ask? He was already planning to get out of their way. What more did she want from him? Through the haze of his anger, he thought he heard her let out a faint, almost inaudible sigh. The car soon stopped in front of an upscale tattoo parlor. Claire dragged him inside, where he saw Leo sitting in a chair, tears streaming down his face as a laser removed the tattoo from his collarbone. He was trembling in pain. A powerful sense of dread washed over Ethan. He wrenched his arm free and made a run for the door, but 2 imposing bodyguards blocked his path. Claire's voice, cold and sharp, came from behind him, sending a shiver down his spine. "Bring him here." The bodyguards seized him, forced him into another chair, and strapped him down. He heard Claire's instruction to the tattoo artist. Same place, same letters. "Put it on him." She then leaned over him, stroking his hair with a bizarrely gentle touch. "Don't be afraid. It'll be over soon." Ethan glared at her. "Claire, I'll step aside. He could be Mr. Jensen. Just let me go." Something he said must have enraged her. She let out a cold snort, her words like ice. "Don't even think about it." She turned and walked over to Leo, dabbing the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. "Don't get another one. It hurts me just to watch." The moment the needle pierced his skin, Ethan closed his eyes in despair. Tears streamed down his face, hot and uncontrollable. How dare she? How dare she carve the symbol of her love for another man into his flesh? Humiliation, rage, and disbelief tore through him, shredding his heart to pieces. It severed the last lingering thread of affection he had for her, leaving nothing but a cold, dead silence. The girl who had pulled him from a burning building, the one who had promised him forever, was long gone, buried under the weight of years. But he never imagined she could be even crueler. At the press conference, Ethan stood beside Claire like a puppet on a string, her arm linked tightly with his. Leo, dressed in a tailored suit, stood nearby, looking immaculate. Claire took the microphone, her expression calm and elegant. "I'd like to take this opportunity to clear up some online rumors." A storm of camera flashes erupted, blindingly bright. The raw, red YY tattoo on Ethan's collarbone was exposed for all to see, a perfect match for the one in the viral photos. The rumors died instantly. He felt Claire's hand slide down his back as she leaned into him. A wave of nausea churned in his stomach. It took all his strength not to push her away. "My husband and I got a little carried away the other night," she said, smiling at the cameras. "Please don't drag innocent people into this." She turned to Leo. "And on that note, I'd like to introduce Jensen Corp's new chief designer, Leo Vance. Congratulations to Jensen Corp on this new talent. And to our investors, rest assured, Jensen Corp is, as always, a name you can trust. Thunderous applause filled the room. Claire had masterfully turned a potential cheating scandal into a corporate PR victory. During the Q&A, a reporter pushed a microphone toward Ethan. Mr. Jensen, does the tattoo on your collarbone have a special meaning? Could you share a sweet moment you've had with your wife? Ethan clenched his jaw to keep from sneering. Claire wrapped her arm around him affectionately and smiled at the cameras. That's our little secret. As for a sweet moment, she rose onto her toes, wrapped her arms around his neck, and pulled him down. Then, she quickly pressed a kiss directly onto the fresh tattoo. Looking back at the reporters, her eyes held a playful glint. Does that count? The color drained from Ethan's face. A visceral revulsion made his skin crawl. Who was she kissing? Who was his kiss really for? He felt the flashes of the cameras like needles, exposing the shame of his marriage for the world to see, tearing away his last shred of dignity. That day, the photo of Clare Jensen kissing her husband's tattoo dominated every entertainment headline, all of them praising her deep and devoted love. Hiding in a bathroom stall, Ethan overheard two reporters talking. The husband's a real saint, isn't he? Didn't he notice the guy in the original photos had longer hair? What do you expect? It's a high society marriage. Did you see the husband's face? Pale as a ghost. And that designer, Leo, looked like the cat that got the cream. It's not hard to connect the dots. Ethan clenched his fists. It was okay. Soon, he would be free of her, free of this humiliation that had been carved into his very skin. After the press conference, to keep up the loving couple charade, Claire took him to a jewelry auction. Anytime Ethan's gaze lingered on an item for more than a second, she would raise her paddle without hesitation, each time outbidding everyone with aggressive, exorbitant offers until the item was hers. The media, already primed for the story, immediately began publishing articles. Jensen Corp's CEO's grand display of affection, actions louder than words. In the car on the way home, Claire carefully straightened his suit jacket, her fingertips lightly brushing against the tattoo on his collarbone. Ethan, just relax and be Mr. Jensen. For the rest of your life, no one will ever come before you. Ethan turned his head away from her touch, saying nothing. He cracked the window, letting the cold air wash away the suffocating scent of her perfume. Such a convincing performance. Who would ever guess that this whole elaborate show was just to pave the way for another man? At the alumni gala that night, Ethan and Chris sat in a corner. Seeing his friend back to his usual boisterous self, some of Ethan's guilt subsided. Chris, stop right there. Chris cut him off with a wave of his hand. Don't you dare say you're sorry. The next time I see that disgusting pair, I'll tear them a new one all over again. ####. Ethan felt a wave of relief and leaned closer, quietly telling him about the divorce and his plans to leave the country. Chris was so furious he shattered his glass. His eyes shot daggers at Claire, who was busy shielding Leo from having to drink too much. He clapped Ethan on the shoulder. Congratulations, brother. You're finally escaping hell. They both drank heavily. When Ethan got up to go to the restroom, he passed a waiter who was changing the coals in a tabletop grill. The young waiter, clearly inexperienced, lost his grip on the tongs, sending a cascade of glowing red charcoal flying right at Ethan. Ethan! Claire's voice was laced with a panic he'd never heard before. Her eyes widened in terror as she shot up from her seat. But before she could reach him, Leo, who was sitting next to her, moved. With a subtle flick of his wrist, he shoved Ethan hard. The force sent Ethan stumbling backward into a towering pyramid of champagne glasses. Amid the sound of shattering glass, the hot coals landed on Leo's leg, instantly turning his skin red and raising angry blisters. Ethan fell into a sea of broken glass, a long gash opening up on his arm. Blood quickly soaked through his sleeve. He pushed himself up, his eyes meeting Sarah's just as she arrived. Her face was a mask of shock and pain, and she opened her mouth to speak. Leo! Claire's sharp cry cut through the chaos. She didn't even glance at Ethan. She rushed to Leo's side, grabbed his arm as he winced in pain, and hurried him out of the room without a backward glance. The eyes of their former classmates were on him, a mixture of pity, morbid curiosity, and thinly veiled amusement. Ethan stared at the blood on his arm, letting the sharp, searing pain anchor him. Good. The pain would help him remember. He would never, ever love Clare Jensen again. Chris ran over and helped him up, cursing as he drove him to the hospital. I swear that Leo guy did it on purpose. Who pushes someone into a champagne tower to save them? What do you call that? Oh, right, playing the victim. Claire must have water for brains. How could she not see through that obvious, manipulative snake? Ethan's mind was strangely calm. His flight was booked. He just had to get through the next week. After getting his arm cleaned and stitched at the hospital, he went home alone. When he pushed open the guest room door, he saw Claire's laptop sitting on the desk. As he walked past, the screen lit up. It was her synced iMessage feed. When he saw the conversation, the world spun. The chat was with Chloe, Claire's childhood friend, whose family ran a major pharmaceutical company in Boston. Claire, you're unbelievable. I ran the DNA from that cotton swab you sent me against the Sterling family's profile. Turns out Ethan Hayes really is their son, the one who went missing 25 years ago. We're talking about the Sterlings, the wealthiest family in Boston. That's a hell of a power move on your part. Giving up Ethan's chance to reunite with his family, all for Leo Vance. I have to admit, that's some next-level devotion. Claire's reply was instant. No one else can know about this. Ethan is fine being Mr. Jensen. Leo needs the identity of a Sterling heir more than he does. Besides, if the Sterlings hadn't mistaken Leo for their son because he was wearing Ethan's locket, Ethan would have never gotten close to them in the first place. Ethan felt his heart freeze over, each beat sending a new wave of agonizing pain through him. He suddenly remembered the night before Leo came back. Claire, who usually avoided him like the plague, had approached him. Her kiss was fierce, urgent, even drawing blood from his lip. Afterward, she'd held him, apologizing over and over, gently dabbing the cut with a medicated cotton swab. At the time, he'd thought it was a final moment of tenderness, a flicker of hope he shouldn't have allowed himself to feel. Now he knew that gentle touch was just a means to an end, a way to get his DNA. He had thought that if she didn't love him, he would leave with dignity and build his own life. But now a raw, consuming hatred grew inside him, a thorny vine choking out everything else. The chat continued. By the way, you canceled your residency to marry Leo. Weren't you worried the Sterlings would find out their long-lost son was already married and force you to dump Ethan? I only married Leo because he needed a family member to sign off on his heart surgery. We already signed a divorce agreement. My residency will be restored in a week. As long as Ethan doesn't file for divorce in that time, our marriage will automatically be reinstated. Claire, I seriously don't get you. Who do you actually love? Isn't it obvious? Whoever I'm married to. The screen went dark. Claire didn't know. He had already filed. As for his family, on what grounds did she think the empty title of Mr. Jensen was enough to make him give up the chance to find them? And on what grounds did Leo Vance get to steal what was rightfully his over and over again? Now, he was even trying to steal his own flesh and blood. This time, Ethan wouldn't just stand by and let it happen. He immediately used his connections to contact the Sterling family. Once they heard his story, they quickly sent someone to collect a DNA sample, promising results within 3 days. Meanwhile, Leo updated his Instagram. He posted a heavily redacted photo of a paternity test report with a caption full of crying and praying hands emojis. The feeling of finding your family after 25 years. I can't even describe it. Folded hands, loudly crying face from orphan to heir. I guess I finally made it. The first comment was from Claire. It was a single word. Congratulations. Ethan stared at the word, a swarm of tiny needles pricking his heart. If he hadn't seen that conversation, he would have been kept in the dark forever, robbed of the chance to ever know his family. The thought of the parents he had dreamed of 1,000 times, now perhaps showering their love and attention on Leo, made his eyes burn. But then he remembered what the Sterlings had said on the phone. If we confirm Leo Vance is an imposter, we will make him pay. That thought brought a small measure of peace. Leo loved taking things from him, didn't he? This time, he was going to learn the true meaning of regret. For the next 2 days, Claire didn't come home. Leo's Instagram, however, was constantly updated with pictures of her tending to his burn, captioned with saccharine lines like, "With you by my side, I can overcome anything." Ethan looked at the photos without a flicker of emotion. That afternoon, he went to the courthouse and picked up his divorce certificate. A massive weight lifted from his chest. As he reached the front door of his house, it was pulled open from the inside before he could even enter the code. It was Claire. She froze when she saw him, her eyes instinctively flicking to the bandage on his arm before settling on the red document folder in his hand. Her pupils constricted. "What is that in your hand?" Before Ethan could answer, Leo ran over and threw his arms around him. "Ethan, congratulate me. I found my birth parents." His fingers pressed down hard on Ethan's wound, and Ethan flinched, pulling his arm away. Leo's eyes immediately welled with tears. "Ethan, are you still mad at me for pushing you?" I really didn't mean to. I was so worried you'd get burned. I lost control. His words expertly diverted Claire's attention from the folder in Ethan's hand. She frowned at Ethan. Ethan, I need you to look after Leo for a minute. I have to step out, but I'll be right back. Leo clung to Ethan's arm, his voice cloyingly sweet. You don't mind, do you, Ethan? I had a sudden craving for the spicy hot pot near campus, and Claire insisted on going to get it for me right now. Ethan pushed his hand away, his voice cold. That's enough. There's no one else here. You can drop the act. Leo's posture instantly straightened. The look of fragile weakness vanished, replaced by a sneer. Hurts to have your wife stolen from you, doesn't it? Ethan held up the divorce certificate, his voice flat. She's all yours. He turned to go upstairs, but his calm demeanor infuriated Leo, who rushed after him, his voice laced with venom. Did it hurt when you got the tattoo? You probably don't know this, but I suggested using a temporary one. It was Claire who insisted on a real one. She said she was worried online sleuths would spot the fake and it would affect my chances in the design competition. Ethan's heart felt like it was being crushed by a boulder. He dug his nails into his palm to keep his composure. Seeing the tension in his jaw, Leo finally smiled, his triumphant voice echoing through the house. Oh, right, I forgot to tell you. My birth parents. They're the Sterlings, the wealthiest family in Boston. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. What do you think they'll do to their son's evil older brother when I tell them how you used to steal my food and bully me at the orphanage? The thought of turning the Sterlings against Ethan seemed to thrill him. Ethan, why are you so pathetic? When the family came to adopt from the orphanage, you couldn't compete with me. Claire knew you first, but all it took was a little effort on my part, and she was wrapped around my little finger. Oh, and there's something else you definitely don't know. He smirked. Those rumors about you and Sarah. I was the one who started them. Smack. The crisp sound of a slap echoed through the room. Ethan watched in shock as Leo, having just struck his own face, let his expression crumble into one of pure anguish. The look of defiance on his face was instantly replaced by one of profound hurt. He staggered backward, collapsing dramatically just as Claire returned, falling right into her arms. Ethan, don't be angry. I don't blame you. Leo cradled his cheek, his voice trembling. It was my fault for bringing up Sarah. I shouldn't have upset you. The name Sarah was like a key, unlocking a hidden chamber of rage within Claire. She hurled the bag of takeout at Ethan, her eyes as cold as ice. She fussed over Leo's face, then, without looking back, ordered her bodyguards, lock the doors. Let Mr. Hayes have some time to reflect. Ethan walked upstairs without a word. He watched impassively as the guards removed all the food and water from the house and cut off the internet and cell service. They left only a satellite phone and a large monitor. Sir, Ms. Jensen said to call her when you've had time to think things through. A guard reported, his face a blank mask. The frequency is L520. The monitor flickered on, beginning a slideshow of photos of Claire and Leo in France, posing in front of the Eiffel Tower, embracing in the lavender fields of Provence, watching the sunset by the Seine. Ethan watched, the image of the young Claire he once knew blurring and fading until she was gone completely. The first day, he didn't eat or drink. The second day, he still didn't eat or drink. On the evening of the third day, the front door opened. Several men in black suits grabbed him, dragged him into a car, and drove him to a lavish yacht docked at the marina. It was Leo's birthday. A massive party was underway, the sky lit up by spectacular fireworks. Claire, stunning in a designer gown, stood by Leo's side. They were laughing together, looking like a prince and princess from a fairy tale. Meanwhile, Ethan was shoved into a small, dark room in the lower deck of the yacht. In the faint moonlight filtering through a porthole, he could make out a figure on the bed. It was Sarah. Suddenly, the lights flared on, blinding him. He could see now that something was terribly wrong with Sarah. Her face was flushed, her breathing ragged. She had been drugged. Before he could react, he was pushed violently onto the bed beside her. Click, click. The sound of a camera shutter echoed in the silent room. Who was it? What were they doing? Sarah was delirious, curled into a ball, burning with fever. He couldn't count on her. After 2 days without food or water, Ethan was weak, dizzy with every movement. He couldn't imagine what would happen if he stayed here. His only hope was the woman on the deck above. Claire. He reached for his phone to call her, only to find it was dead. Panic, cold and sharp, seized him. He had no choice. He crawled over to Sarah and pulled her phone from her pocket. Miraculously, it had a charge. He quickly dialed Claire's number. After a few agonizingly long rings, she answered. Sarah. Claire's voice slurred through the phone, thick with alcohol and a chilling coldness. Enjoy the little surprise I prepared for you today. Let me tell you something. Ethan is mine. Who the hell do you think you are? So what if he doesn't love me? In life, he belongs to me, and in death, he will belong to my family. Claire was clearly drunk, lost in her own monologue, completely deaf to his pleas. And her words. How much truth could there be in a drunken rant? Ethan's heart pounded. Claire, listen to me, it's thud. A heavy object fell on the other end, and Claire's voice was cut off. Ethan gripped the phone, not daring to hang up, calling her name over and over, trying to break through a drunken haze. Claire, can you hear me? I'm on the boat. Help me. After what felt like an eternity, a man's soft laugh came through the line. It was Leo. Ethan Hayes. For the sake of my future, you have to die. Ethan's heart sank. He finally understood. To secure his stolen identity, Leo never intended for him to live. Leo, you think Claire won't find out what you've done? A chuckle. I'm sure she would, but you'll be dead. How could she possibly find out? In my version of the story, you, Ethan Hayes, broke out of the house to rescue a drugged Sarah Young. It has nothing to do with me. I'll be there for Claire. Sooner or later, she'll fall for me. As for you, you can go to hell. Just as he finished, he heard Claire's voice in the background. Leo, have you seen my phone? Who are you talking to? I don't know. I saw your phone on the floor and picked it up for you. Claire's voice faded, and only Leo's whisper remained. How could you be hearing Ethan's voice? He's still at the house. Ethan tried to scream for help, but the line went dead. Bang! The door to the room was kicked open. Two men roughly gagged him and Sarah and dragged them out. Ignoring Ethan's weak struggles, they threw both of them into the ocean. The icy water rushed into his nose and mouth, stealing the air from his lungs. Ethan closed his eyes in agony. How ironic. Claire, in her insane jealousy, had allowed Leo to steal his scholarship, his family, and now his life. If her drunken words were true, her love was a terrifying, destructive thing. He regretted it. He regretted signing that non-disclosure agreement with Sarah to protect Claire. He regretted marrying her. But at least, he didn't love her anymore. And, at least, the Sterlings were on their way. The moment he was pulled from the water, Ethan arranged for Sarah to be taken to a hospital. He returned to the house, placed the divorce certificate and the 99 love letters where she couldn't miss them, erased any trace of his presence, and went straight to the airport. Inside the Sterling family's private jet, a stunningly beautiful woman placed a hand over her heart and bowed her head to him, her voice like a melody. Seraphina Croft, head of the Sterling family's private operations. Welcome home, sir. As a doctor checked him over, Ethan looked out the window at the rising sun and smiled. Claire Jensen, Leo Vance. We'll meet again. The old Ethan Hayes was dead. It was time for a new beginning. At that moment, in another mansion across town, Claire Jensen was fast asleep in a large bed. Beside her lay a satellite phone, and clutched in her hand was a man's silk pajama shirt. Had Ethan been there, he would have recognized the furniture in the room as the old set sheet had removed, and the pajamas as a pair he often wore. A shrill ringtone shattered the silence. Claire bolted upright, instinctively grabbing the satellite phone. She forced down the smile that threatened to form on her lips, her voice reverting to its usual cold tone. Ethan, you finally realized you were wrong. The line was silent. Her other phone, on the nightstand, continued to ring. She stared at the silent satellite phone, her brow furrowing in irritation. She rubbed her temples wearily and picked up the other phone. A bodyguard's frantic voice came through. Ms. Jensen, it's bad. Mr. Hayes is gone. The last remnants of sleep vanished. Her voice rose sharply. Impossible. The tracker I put on him still shows him at the house. She stood, dressing as she spoke. Never mind, I'm on my way. Have a private doctor on standby, and pull up all the security footage from the house. She hung up, took a deep breath, and grabbed her car keys. As she rushed out the door, she ran straight into Leo. Annoyed and in a hurry, she tried to sidestep him. A flash of jealousy crossed his face before he masked it. He held up his phone. Claire, are you going to look for Ethan? She stopped. How did you know? Because I saw him. Leo blinked, then showed her a photo on his phone. It was taken in a dark bar. Two blurry figures were in a corner, but the man in the white shirt looked just like Ethan. Claire leaned in for a closer look, but her eyes were drawn to the woman beside him. The profile, the curve of her jaw. It was unmistakably Sarah. Her fists clenched, her face turning to stone. The air around her seemed to freeze. A storm of rage brewed in her eyes, mixed with a flicker of something that looked like despair. Leo watched her reaction with satisfaction and gently tugged her sleeve. Claire, I'm sure he didn't mean to sneak out behind your back. And besides, in all these years, Nothing has ever actually happened between him and Sarah. Enough. Claire bit down hard on her lip. She closed her eyes and took a ragged breath. When she opened them again, her expression was calm, devoid of emotion. She called her head of security. Pull everyone out of the house, and drop the investigation. The man on the other end was clearly confused. But Ms. Jensen, I said drop it. Do you understand me? She roared. She hung up and hurled the phone against the wall. It shattered on impact. Claire, Leo began, testing the waters. She didn't even look at him. She turned and strode back into the house. Slam. The front door shook on its hinges, leaving Leo standing outside. He bit his lip, then a triumphant smile spread across his face as he walked away. Inside, Claire collapsed onto the beige sofa, utterly defeated. 2 empty wine bottles already sat on the coffee table in front of her. The cold liquid burned its way down her throat, but it couldn't extinguish the fire raging in her chest. Even so, she was careful not to spill a single drop on the sofa. Ethan had fallen in love with it at first sight. She had to protect it. She let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh. What was the point of protecting it? Ethan didn't love her. She stared into the dark red wine in her glass. She bought this bottle specifically for their 3rd anniversary. And for what? Ethan hadn't cared in the slightest. He didn't get angry when she replaced the furniture to provoke him, or when the intimate photos of her and Leo went viral. He didn't even bother to call and ask. What was so special about Sarah Young? What made her worth pining over for all these years? Claire grabbed a dart from the table, drew her arm back, and aimed for the dartboard on the wall. Pinned to the center was a picture of Sarah. Thwack! The dart landed squarely between Sarah's eyes. Claire let out a small, cold laugh. Suddenly, her backup phone rang. She answered it. The voice on the other end was hesitant but urgent. Ms. Jensen, we thought it over, and we feel we have to report this. We found something unusual at the house this morning. Claire sat up straight. What is it? The front door seems to have been forced open. Mr. Hayes wouldn't have the strength to do that. And the bodyguard paused, his voice grave. We found that the security cameras malfunctioned on the day he disappeared. It looks like they were tampered with. Also, we haven't been able to reach Mr. Hayes' phone. The alcohol-induced haze cleared from Claire's mind. The panic she had suppressed that morning came rushing back. Keep looking. I want you to turn this city upside down until you find out what happened. The bodyguard agreed, then hesitated again. Ms. Jensen, there are some things in the house. I think you should see them for yourself. When Claire arrived at the house she had shared with Ethan, the familiar digital lock was broken, its edges pried and mangled. Her heart sank. For the 50th time, she dialed Ethan's number, only to be met with the same cold, automated message. She swallowed the lump at her throat and dialed Sarah's number. It went straight to voicemail. Huh. Claire let out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. Neither of them was answering. Had they really run away together? She collapsed onto the green sofa, the color now a painful, glaring offense. She suddenly remembered why she'd replaced the furniture in the first place. It was at a gala a few weeks ago. She'd overheard Sarah turning down a client, saying, I'm already in love with someone. A roar filled Claire's ears, and she'd cornered her in the hallway. Sarah, I don't think lusting after someone else's husband is something to be proud of. Sarah had looked at her with an expression of pure pity, a look that made Claire want to shatter the wine glass in her hand. Claire, you're going to regret this one day, Sarah had said, her voice low. Can't you just be happy with Ethan? Believe it or not, we're not what you think we are. If you care about him so much, why don't you treat him better? He's a good man. You have no idea what he's. Claire didn't hear the rest. Consumed by a white-hot jealousy, she was afraid that if she listened to another word, she'd smash the glass in Sarah's face. She needed an outlet for her frustration, and with Leo's return, she found one. She replaced all their furniture, wanted to see if Ethan even cared. But what had he done? He hadn't even remembered their anniversary. He didn't make a scene, but it was the one thing she feared most. He had asked for a divorce. How could he? She had been so furious, so determined not to let him leave. Why was it that even Chris got more of his attention, while she, his wife, felt like a complete outsider? But then she'd seen him retreat to the guest room, his back so frail and lonely it broke her heart. Later that night, she couldn't stop herself from slipping into his room, holding him and clumsily wiping away his tears as he slept. And the next morning, he hadn't touched the egg she had tried so hard to make for him, and he had taken Sarah's call right in front of her. In that instant, all her reason had shattered. She'd thrown the mug, but the moment it left her hand, she regretted it. Seeing the blood on his foot, she had panicked, but all she could do was spew cruel words and use Leo as a shield. The day she went to the food truck, her mind was full of Ethan. She deliberately posted the photos, hoping he would get jealous, hoping he would confront her. And his response? A single detached like. Claire trembled with rage. Did he really not care at all? What if she was caught up in a cheating scandal? Surely that would get a reaction out of him. But didn't. He remained as still as a frozen lake, without a single question. It was she who had acted like a madwoman, grabbing him and demanding, "Ethan, have you forgotten who you are? Would kill you to ask me about it? Do you care so little? Why? If he didn't love her, why did he agree to marry her? He had given her hope, only to leave her drowning in a sea of doubt and insecurity every single day. So she'd had the tattoo put on him. Why? In her mind, the first Y had always stood for Ethan. His Chinese name Yu. She wanted him to hurt, wanted him to remember that he belonged to her and her alone. She took him to the press conference to declare to the world that he was hers, that Sarah Young could never have him. At the auction, she kept bidding in extravagant amounts only to show him that she loved him. But why? Why, when he was in danger at the gala, when he was lying in a pile of broken glass, was the first person he looked for still Sarah? What was she to him? She had locked him in the house to make him submit, to force him to see only her. And now, he had left with Sarah anyway. Claire closed her eyes in agony. What did she have to do to make Ethan look at her, to make him love her? When she finally pulled herself together, her gaze fell on the table. Her eyes widened. That small, red folder. What was it? She picked it up. Divorce certificate, it read. She felt a wave of confusion. She opened it. Inside, under certificate holder, was her name, Clare Jensen. A sharp pain shot through her heart, and she stumbled, nearly falling. When did this happen? She had never signed anything. Unless it was when her residency was canceled. How did Ethan know? Why did he want a divorce? And where was he? Claire immediately called Leo. Where did you get that photo? Leo stammered. I just saw it on my feed. I don't know the details. Send it to me. She zoomed in on the image. The man wasn't Ethan at all. Damn it. She slammed her fist on her leg. She had been so blinded by jealousy that she hadn't even looked closely. She had wasted precious time. Nothing else mattered now. She had to find Ethan. If something happened to him, she didn't dare think about it. A cold sweat breaking out on her back. She placed the divorce certificate on the table. As she did, her eyes caught a thick stack of papers next to it. Were these love letters? She frowned and picked them up, flipping through them quickly. The handwriting, it was from when Leo first went to France. He had said he wanted to practice his penmanship and had pestered her to write out passages for him to copy. Someone had scanned them, rearranged the sentences, and printed them out to look like letters she had written to him. Why were these here, next to the divorce certificate? Could it be that Ethan had seen them? A secret, twisted joy sparked in Claire's heart. Had he seen these letters and gotten so jealous that he filed for divorce out of spite? That meant he had feelings for her. It meant he might love her too. Her heart pounded in her chest, the immense joy twisting her face into a strange, distorted smile. When her assistant came in to report, he was so startled by her expression that he spoke with extreme caution. Ms. Jensen, we've confirmed that Mr. Hayes was on a yacht last night, and the restored security footage shows that he hadn't eaten for 2 days. Now he's missing. We're worried. Shut up. Claire snapped back to reality, her eyes blazing. Nothing will happen to Ethan. Give me the security footage from that yacht now. On the screen, Ethan sat in a corner of the sofa, his eyes empty as he stared at the monitor in front of him. Claire's heart clenched. She turned to her assistant, her voice tight with rage. Who put that monitor in his room? Why wasn't anyone bringing him food? The assistant looked uneasy. It was Mr. Vance. He said the monitor was to keep Mr. Hayes entertained. As for the food, he glanced at Claire's darkening face and forced himself to continue. Mr. Vance said you wanted Mr. Hayes to reflect, and that feeding him would defeat the purpose. He said, it was all your orders, Ms. Jensen. We didn't dare disobey. Claire took a deep breath, the fury in her chest about to erupt. Leo Vance. How dare he? Now that she had glimpsed the possibility that Ethan might love her, her mind was suddenly clear. If Ethan loved her, then everything Leo had told her about him and Sarah had to be re-examined. I want a full background check on Leo Vance. ####. Start from his time at the orphanage, she commanded. I want every single detail. She grabbed her car keys and headed for the door, intending to go to Sarah's house. She had to get to the bottom of this. But as she reached the entrance, Leo appeared, grabbing her arm. Claire, did you find Ethan? Claire coolly pulled her arm away, her tone distant. Leo, you've gone too far. I only asked you to help me with a little act, to provoke Ethan. But if you dare to actually hurt him. She paused, her eyes like chips of ice. I will destroy you. Leo's eyes filled with hurt. I understand. But Claire, I have some photos you might be interested in. She was already suspicious of him and waved his words away impatiently. If it has to do with Ethan, I'll find out myself. But this time, it really is him and Sarah. Leo bit his lip, feigning concern. I just want to help you find him. Claire looked at his seemingly innocent face and suppressed her doubts. She had, after all, once considered him a friend. She decided to give him one last chance. But when she saw the photos, her body began to shake uncontrollably. At that exact moment, her assistant rushed in again, his face pale. Ms. Jensen, something's happened. Sarah Young is dead. Claire clenched her fists, fighting to keep her emotions in check. But the images of a disheveled Sarah and Ethan were sending shockwaves through her. She took a deep breath and locked her eyes on Leo. Where did you get these? Seeing him avert his gaze, she grabbed his collar, her voice dangerously low. Leo, think very carefully before you answer. Leo's eyes darted around nervously. Usually, photos like these would have sent her into a blind rage. Why was she so calm today? He suppressed his panic and stammered. It was an anonymous package. It was left at your front door. Claire let him go and tossed the photos to her assistant. Investigate this. She turned to leave for Sarah's house, but was blocked by several men in black suits. They were her grandmother's men. Miss Jensen, the matriarch requests your presence at the family estate. At the Jensen family estate, the old matriarch sat on a mahogany sofa, her fingers stroking a jade bracelet. She didn't even bother to look up when Claire entered. This illegitimate child had somehow won the power struggle years ago, but at least she was competent enough to run the company. I hear Ethan Hayes is missing, and he left behind a divorce certificate. The matriarch's voice was heavy with authority. I've called you here to inform you that the family has decided you will marry Leo Vance. The sooner, the better, before the Sterling family holds his official recognition ceremony. Claire's mind went blank. Why? Why? The old woman sneered. To secure an alliance with the Sterlings, of course. It's your duty as the head of this family. She paused, her voice turning colder. Besides, it's time you produced an heir. You were married to Ethan for 3 years with nothing to show for it. He was no longer fit to be a Jensen husband. Claire felt a bitter taste in her mouth. How could she respond to that? She had always believed Ethan didn't love her. They had never even been intimate. How could there be a child? And the Sterlings. The real heir was Ethan. Her grandmother wanted her to marry an imposter? It was absurd. She finally realized how terribly wrong she had been. So caught up in her own romantic turmoil, she had lost sight of what truly mattered. She remembered her first reaction upon learning Ethan was the Sterling heir. Not joy for him, but fear. Fear that once he reclaimed his birthright, he would leave her. So when Leo proposed the impersonation plan, she had been tempted. He had been so convincing. Claire, don't worry. I'll take his place. That way, he can stay by your side, and his world will revolve only around you. And she had actually believed it would be a win-win. Ethan's family would get their son back, as she wouldn't lose him. She had forgotten that they were his family, his identity. Why did she have to make that decision for him? She had been a selfish monster. Grandmother. Claire looked up, her gaze firm. Things are not what they seem. My husband can only be Ethan Hayes, and I will fix this. Ignoring her grandmother's angry shouts, she rushed out of the estate and drove straight to Sarah's house. But a figure blocked her path at the gate. It was Sarah. Claire's heart leaped. Sarah, where is Ethan? Sarah shrugged, raising an eyebrow. Shouldn't your first question be, how are you not dead? Claire scoffed. A true disappointment. Sarah looked at her with pity. Claire, I really don't get you. If you care about Ethan so much, why do you keep hurting him over Leo? I never wanted to hurt him. Claire's brow furrowed, her voice urgent. Just tell me where he is. Sarah sighed. Let's talk somewhere private. Once they were alone, Sarah asked, do you know why Ethan and I were at that hotel back then? Claire froze. It was a thorn that had been lodged in her heart for years. The memory of seeing those photos had shattered her resolve, causing her to swallow her confession of love and begin 5 years of painful suspicion. Now that the truth was about to be revealed, she felt a strange sense of dread, as if the answer would be too much to bear. Her voice trembled slightly. Why? We signed an NDA about this. I can't tell anyone. Sarah paused, looking at her. Do you remember what it was like when you were first taken in by the Jensen family? Sarah's words unlocked a flood of buried memories. 5 years ago, she was just the illegitimate girl everyone called a bastard. Her mother had been deceived by a wealthy man, only discovering he was already married after she was born. Worn down by gossip and shame, her mother had jumped from a building when Claire was 16. It was after that she had saved Ethan, bringing him back to her small, run-down apartment. Later, her deadbeat father died, and his only legitimate son was discovered not to be his biological child. Only then was she, the illegitimate daughter, brought into the Jensen family, thrown into a vicious battle for succession. The Jensen relatives were like wolves, and she was struggling just to survive. The turning point came when she landed a major contract, something she had always attributed to luck. But now, with Sarah's question hanging in the air, her heart began to pound. Could there be more to the story? As if answering her thoughts, Sarah spoke slowly. You're right. It was because of Ethan. At the time, a very powerful figure needed a kidney transplant. Claire shot to her feet, her fingertips trembling, her eyes instantly filling with tears. Her breathing became ragged. Sarah's voice continued. Ethan was a perfect match. His only condition was that they help you secure your position as the head of the Jensen family. The truth hit her like a bolt of lightning. Claire's legs gave out, and she sank to her knees. A smile that was more painful than a sob twisted her lips. So, you were at the hotel because he was recovering? He was hiding it from me. So, there was never anything between you. I was wrong about him all this time. Sarah stood up and patted her shoulder. Claire, I tried to tell you so many times, but you wouldn't listen. I'm telling you this now because Ethan saved my life once. He loved you so much it was painful to watch. Now that he's finally moved on, please don't drag him back into your mess. The best thing you can do is investigate that Leo Vance. Don't let him play you for a fool. Sarah left a phone on the table. This is my phone. You should listen to the last call recording. And don't ask me where Ethan is. I don't know. Oh, and by the way, I'm getting married. Don't forget to send a gift. Claire let out a gut-wrenching scream. She didn't hear another word Sarah said. Overwhelming regret and guilt crushed her, tearing her heart to pieces, making every breath feel like fire. Her Ethan had loved her that much. She curled into a ball on the ground, tears streaming down her face. After what felt like an eternity, she slowly sat up, her eyes bloodshot. She numbly picked up the phone Sarah had left and played the recording. Her own drunken voice filled the air first. Sarah, let me tell you something. Ethan is mine. Who the hell do you think you are? So what if he doesn't love me? In life, he belongs to me, and in death, he will belong to my family. Claire remembered. It was at Leo's birthday party. She had been drinking heavily, letting her subordinates act on their assumptions and force-feed Sarah drinks. Then, she heard Ethan's voice, desperate and pleading. Claire, it's me. Wake up. They have me on the yacht. I'm locked in a room with Sarah. Come and save me. The moment she heard his voice, Claire shot to her feet, a soul-crushing longing consuming her. She slammed her fists against her forehead, consumed by regret. How could she have drunk so much? How could she have missed his call for help? Then, she heard Leo's sinister voice, and a terrifying, murderous rage ignited in her eyes. Ethan Hayes, for the sake of my future, you have to die. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. In my version of the story, you broke out of the house to rescue a drugged Sarah Young. It has nothing to do with me. I'll be there for Claire. Sooner or later, she'll fall for me. As for you, you could go to hell. Claire's blood ran cold. She had never imagined that the gentle, harmless Leo could be so vicious. It was him. He had taken Ethan. Leo had to know where Ethan was. No wonder he had those photos. They were fabricated to frame them. He wanted to push her over the edge with jealousy again. She had been so blind. After getting Leo's location from her assistant, Claire drove straight to the club, ready for a confrontation. But what she overheard, there was a truth that shattered her completely. Claire strode into the security room, her eyes glued to the monitor displaying the private room where Leo was partying. He was in his element, celebrating with a crowd of wealthy socialites, his glass constantly being refilled. Since taking on the persona of this sterling heir, he had been inundated with offers and gifts, his new condo overflowing with luxury goods. His life had become an endless stream of parties. The young, wealthy men who had once sneered at him now flocked around him like sycophants, feeding his already bloated ego. To celebrate his good fortune, he had even invited some old friends from the orphanage. Among them was the waiter who had spilled the hot coals of the gala. To Leo, the man, the waiter cheered, raising his glass. I was so scared when those coals fell on your leg. Leo laughed, tracing the faint scar on his calf. You played your part perfectly. It was the perfect excuse to send that bastard Ethan flying into the champagne tower. Leo, your plan was brilliant, another man chimed in. Claire didn't even hesitate. She left her husband on the floor and ran right to you. Someone else added, of course. Leo spent 3 years working on her. We all helped. Remember when I spread the rumor that she was illegitimate and Jane cornered her for a fight? just so Leo could swoop in like a hero and save her. She still believes that story to this day. But seriously, one of them said, Claire was so protective of Ethan back then. If we hadn't gotten those photos of him and Sarah at the hotel, she would have confessed her feelings to him ages ago. Leo scoffed. Ethan is nothing. Anything he has, I can take. Leo's the true genius. He was always the smartest one in our group. No wonder he has the blood of a billionaire running through his veins. Leo's expression darkened slightly. He wasn't about to share the secret of his true parentage. He stood up, raised his glass, and declared with a triumphant grin, to me, from now on, you'll all call me Mr. Sterling. To Mr. Sterling, the room roared in response. In the security room, half of Claire's face was cloaked in shadow, the other half illuminated by the ghostly white light of the monitor, making her look like a vengeful spirit. She clutched the investigation report her assistant had handed her, her knuckles white. The words on the page burned like a branding iron. At the orphanage, Leo had cut Ethan's hair to steal his adoption opportunity and pushed the caregiver who was kindest to Ethan down the stairs. Later, he had secretly distributed photos of Ethan, nearly getting him assaulted by a predator. Luckily, she had been there to save him that time. The rest of the report confirmed everything the men in the video were saying. She couldn't bear to think of the pain Ethan must have felt, watching her hurt him time and time again because of Leo's lies. And to secure his false identity, Leo had actually tried to have him killed. Ms. Jensen, please don't panic, her assistant said, seeing the color drain from her face. We had an expert restore the yacht's security footage. Mr. Hayes was rescued by someone. You should be safe. Rescued? Claire murmured, a memory flashing in her mind. When she had locked Ethan in the house, he had just sat there, his eyes completely empty. He wasn't just angry. He truly didn't care anymore. He had left the divorce certificate not out of jealousy, but because he was done. He was really leaving her. The realization hit her like a poison dagger. A metallic taste filled her mouth, and she coughed up a mouthful of blood before collapsing, her world going black. Ms. Jensen, her assistant cried, rushing to her side and frantically calling for an ambulance. Meanwhile, in the private room, Leo was in the middle of a drinking game when several men in black suits surrounded him. Mr. Vance, we're from the Sterling family. Leo's eyes lit up. He put down his glass. Is it time to sign the papers? When is the recognition ceremony? I'll start preparing right away. Back at the Sterling family estate, Ethan sat across from his grandfather, a man with a stern but kind face. The old man held a jade go piece, his fingers warming it as he deliberated, finally placing it on the board with a soft click, completing a line of 5 for Ethan. Huh. The old man wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, his face breaking into a wide grin. Albert, bring me the deed to the vineyard. I've lost it to my grandson. Ethan looked at the man the business world knew as a ruthless tycoon, now acting like a child, and felt a warmth spread through his chest. Who would have thought this legendary figure would spend his days playing Go with him and deliberately losing? In the weeks since his return, he had signed mountains of documents transferring assets to his name and received enough priceless gifts to fill a vault. The entire Sterling family was trying to make up for the 23 years he had lost, one day at a time. He was also beginning to understand the scope of the Sterling Empire. It was a sprawling conglomerate with public, private, and clandestine divisions. The Boston-based company was just one small part of it. Dad, let Ethan rest, a soft voice said. His mother placed a bowl of fruit beside him and gently ruffled his hair. He's been playing with you all morning. He's getting tired. Ethan smiled at her. He had learned that the translation job his mentor had offered him was with a Sterling-owned company, and the kidney he had donated to help Claire secure her inheritance had saved the life of his own biological mother. Life was full of strange ironies. He remembered the day he found out. His mother had held him and cried for hours. My baby, 23 years ago, all the evidence said you were gone. We didn't know. Thank you for saving my life, and thank you for coming back to me. Even his stoic father had shed a tear. Ethan was grateful that he had saved his mother before they even knew they were related. Grateful that his decision to help Claire had ultimately led him back to his family. But that gratitude didn't erase the pain Claire had caused, nor did it forgive Leo's crimes. When his parents learned the truth, they had their clandestine division draw up 10 different punishment plans for Leo. The one they ultimately chose, proposed by Seraphina Croft, was so chilling it made Ethan's blood run cold. He made a mental note to keep his distance from the Sterling family's adopted daughter. His mother had also vetoed his plan to continue working as a translator. My love, do what you're passionate about. Whatever you decide, your father and I will support you. He was being spoiled like a child, his family trying to give him the childhood he never had. This was what it felt like to have a family. It was wonderful. No wonder Leo had written about the redemption of finding your family. Too bad the redemption he had stolen was about to shatter into a million pieces. When they heard he was planning to return to New York, his grandfather hired a self-defense instructor for him. That instructor was Serafina. Looking at her impassive, beautiful face and listening to her grueling training schedule, Ethan had second thoughts. He didn't want to do it. Leo would get what was coming to him eventually. Why did he have to get involved? He even considered not going back at all. Serafina seemed to read his mind. Sir, do you know why some people insist on taking revenge with their own hands? It's not for the satisfaction. It's to honor the person they used to be. This training is just to help you protect yourself. If you really don't want to do it, you can leave at any time. Her words hit him like a hammer. He remembered that if Serafina hadn't rescued him, he would be nothing but a ghost at the bottom of the ocean. Leo would be living his life, cherished by his family, and both he and the Sterlings would have been made into fools. No, I won't let that happen, he said, his gloved fist slamming into the punching bag. From that day on, Ethan trained relentlessly. He even turned down the fruit his mother brought him. Mom, I'll eat after this set. His mother dabbed sunscreen on his face, her eyes glistening with tears. As she turned to leave, she saw his grandfather and father peeking around a corner. They quickly put their fingers to their lips, and she smiled. She wasn't the only one who doted on him. Ethan caught a glimpse of them out of the corner of his eye and felt a surge of warmth, his punches landing with even more force. The day of his return to New York finally arrived, but Claire had already made her move. As soon as Claire regained consciousness, she set two plans in motion. She intensified the search for Ethan, and with the evidence against Leo in hand, she began plotting her revenge. She immediately contacted the Sterling family in Boston, revealing the truth about Ethan being the real heir, hoping to use their resources to find him. She was prepared to face the consequences. She would do anything to get Ethan back. But before she could confront Leo, he came to her, a triumphant look on his face. He waved a document in front of her. Claire, look, I'm officially part of the Sterling family now. They said the recognition ceremony is in 3 days. I'll be the official Sterling heir. They even filmed the signing. They asked if I was willing to be Sterling's son, and of course, I said yes. I even gave my fingerprint. It's a done deal. A seed of doubt planted itself in Claire's mind. She had told the Sterlings the truth. Why would they still be going through with this? She clenched her jaw, fighting the urge to strangle him. Leo, you're not their son. Aren't you afraid of being exposed? Leo noticed her strange expression and feigned concern. Claire, are you worried because you still haven't found Ethan? The thought that Ethan was at the bottom of the ocean brought a flicker of glee to his eyes. Don't worry. I'll take good care of his family for him. You just focus on finding him. Claire laughed, a cold, bitter sound. Had she been blind? How had she never seen through his sickeningly false sincerity? Anyone would kill to be the Sterling heir, and he was acting so noble. If Ethan hadn't been rescued, he would be dead because of this man. The fury she had been suppressing finally erupted. She slammed her hand on the table. Leo, drop the act. I know everything you've done. Leo's face paled. Claire, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Claire didn't waste her breath. She threw a folder of documents at his face, spreading rumors about Ethan and Sarah, manipulating me, provoking me into hurting him out of jealousy. Are you going to deny any of it? With every word, the color drained from Leo's face. He shakily picked up the papers, and when he saw what was inside, he went white as a sheet. No, Claire, this is slander. Don't believe it. Seeing that he was still denying it, Claire nodded to her assistant, who immediately turned on a tablet. The screen showed the security footage of Leo slapping himself to frame Ethan, followed by the video of his conversation with his friends at the club, every word echoing through the hospital room. Claire closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were filled with a chilling coldness. Leo, did you enjoy turning me against Ethan? I was a fool to give you the chance to hurt him. But before I can atone for my sins, you have to pay for yours. She gestured to her bodyguards. Do to him what he did to Ethan. The bodyguards moved to grab him. Fear finally broke through his facade. He dropped to his knees, his face streaked with tears. Claire, I was wrong. But Ethan he's gone. Can you really bear to let his family find out? They've just found their son. The news would devastate them. Is that what you want? To disturb his peace even in death? He crawled towards her, his voice choked with sobs. Claire, let me be their son. I'll take care of them for him. Once they're gone, I'll go to hell and beg for his forgiveness. I promise. His absurd words made Claire laugh. It seemed he didn't know that Ethan was still alive. Leo, you tried to kill him. And you still dream of being the Sterling heir? Keep dreaming. She turned away, disgusted. Take him away. Leo looked at the impassive faces of the bodyguards and finally panicked. Claire, stop pretending. You were the one who locked him in the house. He called you for help, but you were too drunk to answer. Your selfishness and possessiveness are what killed him. You were the one who got his DNA sample. You say you love him, but you hurt him over and over. Your love is disgusting. Even if he were alive, he would never forgive you. His words were like poison daggers, piercing her heart. Yes, she admitted it. Compared to Ethan's love for her, hers was twisted and selfish. She waved her hand tiredly and sank to the floor, watching as the bodyguards gagged Leo and dragged him away. Just then, the door burst open, and her grandmother's furious voice boomed. Let go of the Sterling heir. I'd like to see anyone lay a hand on him. Leo scrambled towards her like she was his last hope. Grandma Jensen, Claire has misunderstood me. Please talk to her. Claire sighed, about to explain. Grandmother, the real Sterling heir is... Silence. The old woman slammed her cane on the floor. From now on, the only Sterling heir is Leo Vance. Grandmother, you ruined my grandson-in-law, so now we have to make the best of it. The old woman sat down, glaring at her. This is the only way the Jensen family can get a piece of the Sterling pie. Don't you understand? Grandmother, Ethan is alive. I've already told the Sterlings. Before she could finish, Leo held up the signed document. Grandma, look, I've already signed the papers. The ceremony is in 3 days. Ethan can't possibly be alive. Don't worry. Once I'm established, the Jensen family will be the Sterlings' greatest allies. The matriarch nodded in satisfaction and pulled him to her side, smoothing his disheveled hair. Good boy. You and Claire will register your marriage today. Of course, whatever you say, Leo said, beaming. Claire closed her eyes in resignation. The Jensen family was beyond saving. It didn't matter. She had already set up a new life for herself overseas. Once she found Ethan, she would take him away from all of this. As for the marriage, never. She pulled her newly issued personal documents from her pocket and flicked open a lighter. The flame licked at the paper, quickly turning it to ash. Her driver's license had expired when she canceled her residency, and she had never bothered to get a new one. By the time the old woman and Leo realized what she had done, there was nothing left but a pile of ashes. The matriarch slammed her fist on the table in fury, but Leo quickly changed his tune. It's all right, Grandma. I can be your adopted grandson. The old woman's anger turned to joy. She immediately had Leo added to the Jensen family registry and posted an announcement on the company website. Only after seeing the stock price soar did she leave, satisfied. Claire decided to wait and see how the Sterling family would handle the situation before dealing with Leo. The next day, to her surprise, the Sterlings sent over a suit for Leo. It was a stunning, custom-made piece covered in tiny, glittering crystals. Leo was so excited his hands were shaking. That afternoon, a private car took him to get a new ID, with his last name officially changed to Sterling. When can I meet my parents? Leo asked the butler, his chin held high. The butler's expression was unreadable. You will be notified by the family. What kind of attitude is that? Leo scoffed. Once I'm officially recognized, I'll have my parents fire you. The butler ignored him and walked away. The recognition ceremony was held in the most exclusive mansion in the city. A few of Leo's new, wealthy friends arrived early to curry favor with him. I wonder what kind of car the Sterlings will send for you. It's going to be incredible. Leo was on cloud 9. After today, he would be a top-tier socialite. But the time for the ceremony was approaching, and the car still hadn't arrived. Don't wait, sir. The Sterlings just flew in from abroad. They're probably jet-lagged. You can ride with us, his friends offered, nearly fighting over who would get to drive him. When they arrived, everyone was stunned by the opulence of the venue. Look at the staff uniforms. They're from the latest designer collection. My sister has been trying to get one for months. That tea set. My uncle pulled so many strings to get one for my grandfather's birthday, and he hasn't even taken it out of the box. Oh my God, is that the limited edition handbag they're giving out as party favors? My mom has been on a waiting list for a year. Leo, we're so jealous of you. Leo felt like he was floating on air. He was a daze until the master of ceremonies announced, "Please welcome the heir of the Sterling family." He took a deep breath. Ethan Hayes, you can rot at the bottom of the ocean. I, Leo Vance, am about to reach for the stars. His hands trembled with excitement as he prepared to step onto the red carpet. Suddenly, the lights went out. A single spotlight illuminated the top of the grand staircase. Leo froze mid-step. What was happening? Amid the whispers of the crowd, a figure began to descend the stairs. In the audience, Claire shot to her feet, her breath catching in her throat. It was Ethan. He walked down the stairs with Serafina Croft on his arm, moving with a calm, confident grace. He reached the center of the stage, and the spotlight went out as the main lights came back on, illuminating his elegant, cream-colored suit. Leo began to shake uncontrollably. Ethan was supposed to be dead. Before he could process what was happening, a disheveled couple rushed onto the stage, and the woman slapped him across the face. "You worthless brat. Instead of taking care of your brother, you're here pretending to be some rich kid." Leo stumbled back, stunned. The man pulled out a grimy ID and shoved it in his face. "Well, what a coincidence. My name's Sterling, too." He then pulled a fierce-looking woman forward. "And this is your wife. I took the dowry, so she's all yours." The woman grabbed Leo's tie, her spit flying in his face. "From now on, every penny you earn goes to your little brother. You hide 1 cent, and I'll tear your mouth off. And that fancy condo of yours will make a perfect home for him and his new wife. At least you're good for something." Leo's carefully styled hair was a mess, his once triumphant face now swollen and red. He struggled wildly. "No, this isn't my family." The man pulled out his phone and played a video of Leo signing the adoption papers. The volume turned up to full blast. "You signed on the dotted line. We have witnesses. Even a court will make you acknowledge me as your father." The woman's iron grip moved to his waist. "You're a pretty little thing. Come on, let's go home and make some babies." Leo finally understood. It was all a trap. He grabbed a champagne glass from a nearby tower and hurled it at the stage. "Ethan, you did this to me. You backstabbing coward." Serafina quickly moved to shield Ethan as bodyguards intercepted the flying glass. They swarmed the stage and restrained Leo, who finally broke down, sobbing hysterically, his face a mess of tears and food stains. His grand entrance was now a pathetic, humiliating exit. He was dragged away by the woman like a piece of livestock. The wealthy young men who had been fawning over him just days before now looked horrified, wishing the ground would swallow them whole. The Jensen matriarch stared at her phone, watching her company's stock plummet, and nearly fainted. Claire didn't care about any of that. She pushed through the crowd and ran onto the stage just as Ethan was about to leave. "Ethan, I've been looking for you everywhere. So you're the Sterling heir." Her voice trembled with a belated joy. "Congratulations on finding your family." Ethan turned his head, his eyes filled with undisguised contempt. "I remember you saying congratulations to Leo, too. Don't use the same line on me. It's disgusting." Claire reached for him, but Serafina blocked her path. Her eyes were red, her voice pleading. "Ethan, I was wrong. I know you still have feelings for me. Can we please start over? It was all Leo's fault. I thought you didn't love me. The things I did. It was only because I was jealous." Her gaze fell to his collarbone, now smooth and unmarked. A shadow of sadness crossed her face. "The tattoo. You had it removed. Ethan, the Y was always for you. I'm so sorry. I was a monster." Ethan's lips twisted into a bitter smile. "Claire, I don't accept your apology. The pain you inflicted in the name of love has killed any feelings I ever had for you. From the moment you allowed Leo to impersonate me, the only thing I've felt for you is hatred." Claire's eyes widened in shock. He knew. He knew everything. "Ethan, I was scared. I was afraid that if you found your family, you would leave me. That's why I listened to Leo." Her voice broke. "Sarah told me everything. What you did for me." "Enough," Ethan cut her off. "You always thought I didn't love you. Well, now you've gotten your wish." He turned to leave with Serafina. Claire lunged forward and tore open the collar of her dress, revealing the jagged, ugly scar on her back, the one she had gotten when she saved him from the fire. "Ethan, you said this scar would get you to forgive me 3 times, she cried, her voice raw with desperation. "I'm using the last chance now. Please forgive me." Ethan looked at the scar, and for a moment, he was transported back in time. It was the year they were closest. She had run into the fire to save him, her own back getting burned in the process. He had held her and cried, and she had clumsily wiped away his tears, smiling. "Ethan, I'm so glad you're okay." She had pointed to the wound on her back and laughed. "This is my medal for protecting you. If I ever make you angry in the future, can this medal buy me your forgiveness?" He had been so moved he had choked out 3 times. "I'll give you 3 chances." He had almost forgotten that they had once shared something so pure, so sweet. Ethan smiled faintly. "Claire, you want to use those 3 chances now? Which 3 things do you want me to forgive?" Claire's mouth opened, but no words came out. She had done so many things wrong, too many to count. How could she possibly choose just 3? The color drained from her face, her hands beginning to tremble. Ethan nodded knowingly and turned away, this time for good. Claire squeezed her eyes shut, silent tears streaming down her face. She finally understood. The Ethan who had once cherished her above all else was gone, and she had been the one to destroy him. There was one more thing Ethan had to do on this trip back to New York: attend Sarah and Chris's wedding. He was still surprised by it. He had no idea when those two had gotten together. Since he had been acknowledged as a sterling, Chris's own star had risen, making him one of the city's most eligible bachelors. Sarah, not one to take chances, had proposed, and the news had sent both of their families' stocks soaring for weeks. Ethan's wedding gift was a major contract with a sterling-owned company. He had always felt guilty about the false rumors surrounding Chris, and this was his way of making it up to him. Chris, usually so impulsive, looked surprisingly sharp in his tuxedo. He hugged Ethan tightly. "Quick, let me absorb some of your good luck. I want a lifetime of wealth and happiness." Ethan laughed and handed him another folder. "This is just for you." Chris's eyes widened as he saw the deed inside. "Oh my God, Ethan, you remembered. I used to joke about putting my family's company headquarters on this plot of land. I can't believe you remembered." He paused, his expression turning serious. "Clare Jensen never deserved someone as good as you." He leaned in closer. "So, who's the beautiful woman you brought with you? Seraphina Croft, right? The way she looks at you. There's something there." Ethan shook his head, smiling. "She's the Sterling's adopted daughter. If they hadn't found me, she would have been the heir." Chris grinned. "So, a childhood sweetheart then? Chris, your brain has turned to mush since you fell in love." Chris laughed. "With you in my corner, I'll never lose." When it was time for the bouquet toss, Chris and Sarah walked straight over to Ethan and placed the bouquet in his hands. "To us, brother. May we always be this happy." Ethan smiled. "You're not supposed to give the bouquet to a man." They looked at each other, their eyes glistening. From a dark corner, Claire watched him, her gaze hungry. She remembered her own wedding to Ethan. He had been wearing a white suit, a blissful smile on his face. When the officiant asked if he would take her as his wife, he had nodded and said, "I do." At that moment, she had been so grateful to be marrying the boy she loved, secretly hoping that one day he would love her back. How had she been so blind? How had she not seen the love that was so clearly in his eyes? She had promised to make him happy for the rest of his life, and she hadn't even managed a single day. Claire raised her glass and drained it in one gulp, as if punishing herself. Her assistant approached cautiously. "Ms. Jensen, the matriarch wants you to bring Mr. Hayes back." Claire didn't even look up. Get lost. So now they regretted it? It was too late, just as it was too late for her. She would never deserve his forgiveness. As Ethan was getting his car from the parking garage, a chill ran down his spine. His training kicked in, and he instinctively sidestepped, kicking out behind him. His foot connected with Leo's stomach. Leo stumbled back, a knife clattering to the ground. Ethan kicked it away and stared at him, his eyes cold. Leo's face was still bruised, making his expression even more twisted. "We were both orphans. Why do you get to have everything? Why couldn't you just stay where you belong? I almost had it all. Why did you have to come back? My life is a living hell now. Are you satisfied?" Ethan looked at him without a shred of pity. Mercy to an enemy is cruelty to oneself. "Leo, when you had me thrown into the ocean, you should have known this day would come. You could have made different choices. If you had chosen to be my friend, you could have been another Chris." Leo sneered, his eyes full of venom. "Seeing you happy is worse than death. I would never be your friend." Ethan didn't bother to respond. The police, already notified, arrived and took the still screaming Leo away. Seraphina walked over, her voice edged with concern. "Sir, you forgot again. You should only lay your guard down when you're certain you are safe, especially with a desperate man. He had an explosive device on him. Luckily, we detected it beforehand." She paused, then pulled a small, golden pin from her pocket and held it out to him. "But your reaction time was excellent. This is your reward." Ethan took the pin, his fingertips brushing against the warmth of her hand. He looked up at her and smiled. "Thank you." From a distance, Claire watched them, her heart feeling as if it had been carved out of her chest. So this was what it felt like to watch the person you love with someone else. No wonder Ethan couldn't forgive her. She deserved all of this. After returning to Boston, Ethan decided to pursue his dream of becoming a game designer, a dream he had put on hold for 3 years because of Clare. Now, free from his failed marriage, he finally had the courage to move forward. His grandfather asked if he wanted to change his last name back to Sterling. The name Hayes had been given to him by the kindest caregiver at the orphanage. He remembered her warm hand on his head. "I hope the world will always have a place for you. You will be Hayes." But because she had been kind to him, Leo had pushed her down the stairs, breaking her leg. On his trip back to New York, Ethan had found her the best orthopedic surgeon and made sure she had enough money to live comfortably. You don't have to change it if you don't want to, his grandfather said, smiling. No matter what your name is, you will always be a Sterling. I'll change it, Ethan said softly. That way, I'll have two names. Ethan Sterling, Ethan Hayes. They're both me. His mother, listening nearby, quietly wiped a tear from her eye. 3 years later, Ethan graduated from top university. At the ceremony, he stood in the spotlight, his family and Serafina sitting in the front row. He thanked fate for giving him a family and for giving him a partner. He remembered the day Serafina confessed her feelings for him. She had given him an ornate dagger. Sir, I will always be your loyal subject. She took his hand and placed the dagger against her own heart. If I ever break this vow, you will plunge this into my heart. Ethan had teased her. I don't understand. Serafina looked up, her eyes full of a soft, gentle light. Ethan, I will always love you, admire you, and be by your side. He had smiled and pulled her into his arms, kissing her deeply. The day their wedding date was set, Chris called with news of Claire's death. Organ failure due to excessive drinking. Ethan's hand trembled slightly, then stilled. Apparently, before she died, Claire had given Chris a journal. Inside were 99 love letters to Ethan and 99 letters of apology. Chris, Ethan said, not taking the journal, take it back to her, leave it at her grave. When Serafina found him, he casually draped his arm around her shoulder. Serafina, I'm craving your roasted lamb tonight. Okay, she said, her hand resting on his waist. And your beef stew. Whatever you want. The setting sun stretched their shadows long across the ground, as if reaching into forever.